make sure more people don't die like his aunt. That's when the symbiote comes along, and it gives Peter gives Peter more strength, durability, speed, but it also makes him more irritable, violent, and angry. However, the feeling of this power that makes him a better Spider-Man becomes too addicting, and he begins to act. And because of the things that the symbiote put in his mind, he eventually. Damn, the wings is. All right, so and at the same time, Peter begins to act more violently, which the city isn't exactly a liking. And once he begins to go a bit way too far, Peter Miles talks some sense to him, and he takes off the black suit. And Miles, in a way, is also character arc is also about not feeling adequate enough. Because at the start, the game makes it seem like because of his father's death, Miles wants revenge on Lee. However, the reality is that he feels if Lee gets out there, he'll be powerless to stop him. Again, linking to the theme of not feeling adequate enough. Hell, even Mary Jane kind of has a bit of kind of carries that theme too. And in terms of first off, we're gonna talk about Craven here. Craven is awesome. He's like a pure evil villain, and with still some layers. It's insane. He's like a man who will not let illness take him. He'll go out on his own terms, like, and he wants to die by to be die by an equal in battle. It's a cool thing. It's cool, and he hunts down the villains of the city or the superhumans of the city in order to find an equal that can kill him, so he can finally fulfill. So he can have a glorious death. Scene. Now, and while Craven is done really respectfully in this game, while I don't think Venom is necessarily bad, I do still like him in this game. Venom just isn't as good as Craven in this game. Now, get some pauses out of the way for Venom. His design is incredible. He's huge, intimidating, hating everything about him screams intimidation, and the voice of Tony Todd was an excellent choice for Venom. Now, there's some controversial. Now, there's some things that people have said. Now, in terms of things that some people complained about Venom in this game that I just don't really agree with. Well, and this one is a bit to an extent, but it's about kind of Harry Osborn being Venom. I mean, yeah, we didn't exactly get the best Venom from him, and to be honest, if Harry was written better, I feel like people wouldn't. If the symbiote with Harry would have been written better, it wouldn't be that called out on. But at the same time, it doesn't exactly bother me that much, or really at all. And the weakness and the resistance to the fire is something I don't just doesn't bother me, even though it's one of the symbiote's main weaknesses. I mean, I feel like they traded his fire weakness for like the anti venom, which is a more lesser known weakness. So it's not that, and they still kept the weakness sound waves anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Plus it's kind of overhauled by the reasoning of Venom walking through fire looks cool. However, in terms of, I think now the problem with Venom is that he's barely. It feels like Venom is on screen for very little amount for various for uh, outstanding like 40 minutes. He's like only in the game for like 40 minutes. And no, I don't really mean like the Venom, the Venom, like story is 40 minutes long. It's just that he's on screen for like 40 minutes in that Venom story on the game. And this wouldn't be, however, this in itself, however, that in itself isn't exactly as much an issue as the presence. Because if you look at Spider-Man Web of Shadows, people aren't as harsh on that Venom as this one, and and he also has very little screen time. He frees briefly at the start, briefly in the middle, and not seen until like the end. And the reason why this isn't as big of a deal is because Venom's presence is felt throughout the story. He's the inciting incident. He's the one who turns the sea on his head, and he's the catalyst for all the fun in the game. So if he had more presence in the story, this could, in a way, outweigh his lack of screen time. However, we didn't get that because for most of the story, it's Craven who has the presence. He's basically the main villain in the first two acts, which is a majority of the game. And without this presence in Venom's like a screen time, it feels underwhelming. And in terms of characterization, I don't exactly. There's definitely some. He is a bit on the bland side. While it is cool to have a villain who is just evil for the sake of being evil, I feel like they could have. It just feels like weird considering who Venom is, really. Venom, in general, is known as the combined hatred for Spider-Man and Peter Parker. However, a main issue in, is that Harry doesn't exactly hate Peter. He's more so angry at him, but he doesn't hate him. And in a way, Symbiote doesn't exactly hate Peter either. He more so hates Miles and Craven because they're the ones who separated him from Peter. Now, I do respect them from risking a little bit, trying different things, but it didn't go exactly to plan. And here, like, sure, it's cool, but that you're trying different things out, but it didn't work. It didn't work out really well. It didn't work out the best. I I do think this Venom is better than uh, Sam Raimi Spider-Man 3, Ultimate Spider-Man, 2017 Marvel Spider-Man, and Unlimited Spider-Man. However, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, uh, uh, Web of Shadows, Tom Hardy's Venom, 90s not the 90s cartoon Spider-Man, and Spectacular Spider-Man are better than this one. And I feel like they could have at least given Venom a bit more layers. And the thing is, Venom in the comics doesn't exactly want the symbiote invasion to happen. And while I get this new story, I feel like they're in a way they could have tweaked a bit to match the comics in a way where Venom didn't really want the symbiote invasion to happen because of how he was treated down on Earth, he might have he might have come to the conclusion that the other symbiotes were right and that they should take over over other planets, and that buys into his belief of healing the world from evil, because humanity tortured him. You know, it's just speculation, or at least an idea I have. But I feel like this could at least give Venom a bit more layers to his character. And with the line that Venom says that we are Venom, it's a cool line, but the problem with this line is, why are you Venom too? Why are you poisoning? And another issue is that it feels like you're pulling it from too many different sources of the character. Symbiote Invasion feels like a massive homage to Web of Shadows. The pronouncement of "We Are Venom" feels like a very seems like a callback to the OG comics, and the way the symbiote possesses them like a demon kind of reminds me of the Ultimate line. But the problem is, it's coming from completely different interpretations of the character, meaning it's kind of like a jumbled JPEG. Means this character might be a jump. Just feels like a jumbled JPEG. Jumbled JPEG. So yeah. So yeah, I don't exactly hate Venom in this game. Him be, I feel like in a way it's meant to set up his character arc in the, the rumored Venom game in a way, but they should have at least still made him a bit more of an interesting character in Spider-Man 2 instead of just a future game. Now, next up is the nerfing. This has been a very his nerfing play is going on for like 2 years now. I think it's really like insane. Now, I do agree there's some points where like it's kind of weird that it where pure loss did happen, but I don't mind it that much. Don't get me wrong, it's still kind of weird how it happens, but it didn't bother me as much as everyone else did. Now, in terms of Pierre being nerfed, there's definitely some moments where I thought where they could have definitely did it a bit better, like the Fridge scene. I get that there is context on. There's a little context where it says that, or Dr. Carr's on a call saying that Pierre is definitely still feeling like physical symptoms like soreness and fatigue from removing the symbiote. However, it still feels weird in the way that it happened. And Venom is stronger than like any other villain in this currently in Spider-Man in the Spider-Man universe. So it's not exactly so him being completely walloped by Venom isn't the problem. It's the fact that it happened in this way. They chose to put it this way, and it didn't necessarily make that much sense to me. Now, overall, it didn't bother me as other people, as Venom is basically stronger than any villain in the Spider-Man mythos, and Peter is apparently feeling like soreness and fatigue, and as well as being like drained as a result of taking symbiote off. But there's definitely some context there, but overall, it's not. It still feels kind of weird. I'll say that. The other thing, weirdly the amount when yet it didn't really. Now the nerf thing overall, it didn't necessarily hamper my enjoyment of the game, but it was it it was definitely a little strange. However, this game is an S tier. I say that. I still don't think the nerfing was as bad as everyone says it was, and I still like Venom in this game, even though felt there was points where they could have done it better. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe, comment, like, hit that notification bell so my future videos. Without further ado, bye bye.